All right, welcome to CIS280. This is Programming iOS Mobile App Development online course. This is intro week, or next 2 weeks actually. I'm opening up a week early. I just want to get started by going over the getting started week 1 to make sure you understand where you're going, what you need to install, how to get up and running, and things like that. So let's go and get started. So when you log in to Eagle, you will have access to the new student in week 1. Week 2 and on is disabled right now, just so you can focus on week 1. Now this course is totally online. There is no paid textbook. There is a downloadable textbook and online resources and examples that we'll be using throughout the semester. There is also the need for software on your computer. If you have a Mac, you'll download Xcode to your Mac, and there's other options if you don't have a Mac that we'll talk about in a second, that you can definitely make it just fine in the class without a Macintosh laptop or desktop computer. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and click on the Getting Started button here. And we'll go over the week 1 task, getting started. If you're not familiar with Eagle, I suggest going over this link on Eagle. Course navigation just breaks down the different aspects of how to navigate the course. Each week has a different module. Each module represents a number of pages, and each page must be completed before continuing to the next page. A new module example, next week's module, should not be started until you've completed all of this week's module. You've completed the module for each week when you've reached the "You have completed this week's module" page. The main pages of the course site is homepage, announcement page, modules, syllabus that shows all your assignments, and then grades where you access your grades. Going back to the current page that we were on. So the first thing you need to do after you get settled here is register an Apple ID, a brand new one, using your S number at student.rockvalleycollege.edu address. You'll follow the examples here on creating an Apple ID, how to sign up for an Apple ID without using a credit card, why can't I select none as payment type. You can read this link and talk more about that. Number 4, downloading the latest version of Xcode. You'll go to this site and it'll ask you to go to the App Store to download it. Once you download it, you'll download it to your Mac, and we will look at that in just a second, what it looks like. If you don't have a Mac at home, there's some options. First is we do have Macs on campus that you can definitely use to complete your weekly assignments. Lab times for your open Mac lab are already posted. We'll go over those in a second. Or the online Mac in a Cloud, where you rent a Mac online, which is this link here. I suggest starting out with the 3-hour limit daily, which is only $16 a month. They do keep everything updated. You also have Xcode is already installed and ready to go. And so it's a pretty good deal. It works really well, and it's pretty robust. It'll run off your any laptop, tablet, or even phone, actually. And they do keep things updated. I mean, you can get bigger packages if you want to, but I would suggest starting with a 3-hour package, see how that works. And that's 3-hour limit daily that you can access it. Bookmark the PDF for the book that we're going to be using, and we'll be updating and adding a new one shortly for iOS 12. But you can go ahead and download this one right now anyway for week 1, even though I'll be adding an updated book here in a bit. And you'll download this PDF to your computer. Cheat sheet for Swift, which takes you to this sheet here. iBook on the iPhone, iPad for Swift programming. And then Stack Overflow. I've got some resources on my website that will be being updated here shortly. If you can bookmark that. iOScourse.co, just some other resources for iOS development and things to get you started. Facebook page, Twitter page, and then other social media, if you could follow us on that. Snapchat, I really don't use at all anymore, so I let that one in there anyway. We used to use that to promo events, but we don't use that anymore. And then lastly, signing up for Replit, which is an online coding resource to be able to build and learn app development in a free environment. And so sign up for that. Once you've completed all 10 of these tasks, just say I have completed the above task below and submit. Then you'll do an about me, name you go by, favorite food, favorite movie, hobbies while you're taking the class, and reply to at least two or more others within the class. Do you own an iPhone or iPad? Yes or no? Just post yes or no on this one. Reading. Reading chapters 1, 3, 5, and 7 on the downloaded text. We'll play around with Swift Playground this week, and then week 1 actually, starting next week, to test out the code you're reading about. Make sure to download source and the cheat sheet that is on that link. This opens up a slide for week 1. You'll have to enter in your name. And I will go to the very top here. So this week we're going to go over Swift Playground. Next week we'll do variables. Week 3 we'll start with getting around Xcode. I'll give you a few weeks to get used to Xcode or get downloaded and installed. Intro to iOS. What is iOS development? How popular is it? What do you need to do to begin developing iOS apps? And what dev languages skills do you need? So first off, iOS is basically starting out with, when it first came out, the iPhone, taking the I out of iPhone and OS. So iOS, the operating system of Apple's mobile devices. And how popular, 200 million plus devices running iOS 6 or greater just after the month of its availability. There are over 1 million apps actually in the App Store right now, and 250,000 iPad apps or more. Users have downloaded way more than 35 billion apps from the App Store, but around 50 billion right now. It's an old stat. And tons of developers have been paid to develop apps and publish on their App Store. People buy them. This is current stat of the top 10 free apps right now in the App Store. You might play with some of these already, like Instagram, or use some of these. Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, TikTok, Idle Human. So a mishmash of gaming and productivity apps. And here's the top paid apps: Minecraft, Heads Up, Plague, Bloons TD6, Pocket Build, Hot Schedules, Facetune, Procreate Pocket, Geometry Dash, and Bloons TD5. So what do you need to get started? An OS for Mac, Mojave, and the Xcode application on your Mac computer or Mac in the cloud. Or if you use it at school, you can use it in the Mac lab. So here's what Xcode, when it's installed, looks like. I've got it here in front. And I've got a hello program here I'll show you that you'll be doing here in a bit, a few weeks, I believe, before you do next hello program. So when you start the app and you install Xcode, this is a project, it's Hello World that you usually start with programming. I'll go ahead and run the app to show you what it does and how it works. So it's launching actually when I hit start of the simulator. The simulator is now running on my Mac here, and it's asking to enter in a name, enter in your name. So I'll go ahead and put in Chuck Conkle and hit submit. And now it says hello, Chuck Conkle, clears out the text box. And that's a very simple hello application. And so we'll learn more as we go on about Xcode and what it is. I just wanted to show you the screen of Xcode, what it looks like, the basic layout, before, just so you'll kind of see it. As far as the layout of Xcode environment, this is a very rough overview. Tools on the left side, as far as file access. The tools on the right side are going to be for things like objects, like labels, buttons, and text. To code view, where you can drag and drop code from the actual simulator screen here to the actual code environment, and then type in your code accordingly for the app to run. One of the most popular things you'll learn first off is how to bind objects to the code. And one of the first things you'll learn is such things like IB outlet and IB action. An IB outlet is like an outlet object, like a label, this one here, a text view or text field, and a button would be an IB action that has a click event here. So when the button was clicked, it grabbed what was in the text name, put hello in front of it, cleared out the text name, and it added that hello, whatever you put in the text name, to this label here at the bottom, cleared out text name, and this became the first responder. When the app ran initially, it took the text name and made it the first responder. That's why when the app runs here, which I'll run it again, you'll notice the cursor's blinking here in the environment. Now, the simulator can be moved around your computer. It can be ran actually separately from Xcode. I'll go ahead and minimize everything just to show you what I mean. So the simulator is running separately from Xcode. If I go ahead and actually stop the Xcode app from running and show you what the simulator looks like, it looks just like a normal iPhone. In this case, it's an iPhone XR. And here's the app that was created. It has some default apps on there like every iPhone will have. Safari, Messenger, text messenger, photos, calendar, things like that. But you click on the icon like you normally would for an app, and it runs. Some of the features on the simulator, you can do a screenshot. Once you do a screenshot, it's actually going to take a screenshot of that screen on that you're viewing currently, and it created it right here on my Mac. So I'll open it up to show you. So there's a screenshot it just created. Next, from a simulator, you've got the ability to copy a screen, the ability to rotate. So you could actually rotate the screen, or you can use shortcut keys on your keyboard as well to do that. And you'll notice how I rotate it. The app rotates as well. I'll bring it back to the normal view here. There we go. If I wanted to go home, I can go to the home menu, click on home. If I wanted to uninstall this app, I would click and hold it from the mouse or from my mouse on my computer till it shakes, and then that can delete it. Are you sure you want to delete it? Yes, I do. Hit done. And then in order to reinstall that, I can rerun the app again, go to the simulator screen, and go to home, and there's the app that's been reinstalled. So we'll go over this here in a few weeks, but I just want to kind of show you what the interface of Xcode looks like. It's a fun environment. You'll be creating apps pretty quickly in it, and learning Swift code is very fun to learn, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead and close that simulator out. Go back to our slide. So Mac OS 10 or 0.14.3 Mojave, and you can do your Mac at home, the online Mac in the cloud, or Macs on campus. Developer license to test. Currently, right now, the current version of Xcode, to just test here as we get started, you really don't need a developer license anymore. It's only needed really whenever you're going to publish to the App Store now. If you wanted to publish a free app, which I recommend students to do, definitely you'll need to purchase your $99 license a year to do that, but I wouldn't spend the money until you're ready for that to happen, because it renews every year. You have to renew it. But what's cool about Xcode is they have opened up, Apple has the ability for developers to share their code to any user that has a device, an iOS device, and then we can sideload it onto that device, and they can run that app during a test environment, which is nice. Developer license, I already mentioned, $99. The university developer license that we'll be having you sign up for here in a few weeks is just because we're part of licensing. We're a developer licensed campus, and so we can do things like share with multi-users and set them up easily with the developer license. You can't sell apps on the App Store with this license, but you can easily install apps quickly with a developer license. And you'll complete that in week 1 here. So there's different developer programs. I'll have you go over those. Hardware, we talked about already. You can begin development without an iOS device because of the simulator I just showed you. You cannot begin development without a Mac, though. You need a Mac, either a physical Mac or a Mac in the cloud, one of the two. And again, you can use your own Mac, Mac in the cloud, or Macs on campus. The language we'll be learning is Swift. iOS 12 is the one we're on currently. We'll be going to iOS 13 probably in September, October. Some of the highlights of iOS 12 is 3D Touch, where you can touch and hold an icon and do different things like different menus and things of that nature. New shortcuts are also integrated in 12. The camera can now scan a QR code. AirPods, Live Listen, where you can transform your iPods or AirPods into hearing aids to magnify people's voices. Many people don't know that's available. Apple Music, and then lyric search, where you can simply type the lyrics of a song into Apple Music, and it can find what you're looking for. And specific track names aren't required. Battery, longer life battery, express car to power reserve. iOS retains enough battery life even when the phone power is off for digital transit cards and student IDs to still work. For now, support for the former is limited to China and Japan, and later is US, but expects to change. Cellular smarts, when you're without cell coverage for your iPhone, it will constantly look for it So iOS 12 adds a no-cell coverage to the battery usage by app. List at the bottom of the battery settings will help alert you to apps which are particularly power hungry and dead zones. iOS 12, definitely you should already have that on your phone if you have an iOS device or iPad. Camera has been updated, and then feature parity limited to iPhone X, iOS 11, iOS 12 gives all phones support for what's called stickers and filters on your camera. Now let's go to Swift. Swift programming language is pretty quick. It's faster than Objective-C, both in the learning curve and also in how much code it takes. A lot less code to type to do the same functions. It's very modern since 2014. We're in 2019, so only 5 years old as far as being actively supported by the Apple community. It borrows from code-based languages like Haskell, Ruby on Rails, JavaScript, and the skill barrier is greatly lowered for a reason. Apple wanted more developers and needs more developers, so we needed to move from the archaic Objective-C to a newer, more hip, modern code base, which is, again, a lot of fun to learn, and you will enjoy it. Interactive, it's a playground, allows programmers to experiment with your code. You'll do that in the first week or two here to see results immediately. No building and running. You literally will see results as you type in the code in Playground. Key parts in Swift. Declaration and implementation of the same file. No H&M files like we used to have in Objective-C. You would have an H file and an M file for every single file in your app. Project size is largely reduced with Swift. Swift auto-detects data types. And the code does not use semicolons. Swift variables. Here's some examples. Var name string equals Jane Doe in quotes. Var year int equals 2014. And var is fast bool equals true. All three of these are declaring variables. The first one is declaring a variable name as a string, year as an int, and is fast as a bool. To the right of the equal sign, assignment operator, is the actual value being pulled into that variable, the actual default value. So the first one is Jane Doe for name, 2014 for year, and true for is fast. Constants. One of the big differences between var and constant is the word let. The one we just looked at, we had the var as a declaration, meaning it can change downstream. If we declare name and it's Jane Doe initially, we can use it throughout the code down the code stream and change name to Chuck Conkle, or change a name to Jim Jones or Jim Wise, whatever we want to do. Same with the year, and same with the is fast can be changed with the var. On the other hand, constants cannot be changed. If you use a constant, declare a variable as a constant, use the word let. And so in this case, Jane Doe would have to stay Jane Doe, year would have to stay 2014, and is fast would have to stay true. So constants are good for variables that aren't going to change, like tax rate, things of that nature. Strings. Here's an example. Let hello equals hello. Let world equals world. Let first equals hello plus empty quotes plus world will print hello world in the first string variable. You'll notice no declaration types have been defined. What declares the type is what's to the right of the assignment operator. So in the first two, and even the third one, the assignment operator to the right of is all strings. Arrays. When you're using arrays in Swift, you use, again, it can be a variable array, generally, it's going to be, but it could also be a let for a constant, but a variable would be a type list. It's a string here. 2 brackets, meaning it's declaring it as a string array. And then to the right of the equal sign is the contents of that array, yes, no, and cancel. You'll notice separated by the left and right bracket and quotes in between and commas. Type list plus equals OK. We'll actually add in the OK now to the type list variable array. So you'll have now yes, no, cancel, and OK. And what's cool about Swift arrays is they can have mixed object types within an array. It can be a string, an integer, a float, an object, all within an array itself. It does not have to be one type. So accessing collections of arrays. So type list.insert later at index 0. We'll type in the word later before being the initial 0 in front of yes. So yes was the first, now later is. Type list.remove at index 0 now removes later, and now yes is back at the first. Type list.append later is going to put later at the very end of that array list. Tuples. Function returning more than one value is a tuples. So let result equals 404, comma, not found in quotes. Let code equals result.0 will then result in the first array of that result tuples, which was 404. Let result or let status equals result.1. It will bring in the not found. Conditions in Swift. If val equals to 0, whatever code. Else if val equals to 1. Equals to 1. Only you remember on conditions, as far as for additional or for equals to, is two equal symbols. Conditions continuing on can use a switch with the where clause and tuples. So if we have a switch and we call, and the switch is, let's say it's RGB. So we're going to create a case, let RGB, where R is equal to G and G is equal to B, and then print gray. Default will print colored. Okay, so it's R and G. As R is equal to G, G is equal to B, it'll print gray. Otherwise, it's going to be color. A while loop, while not finished, whatever code you want to put there. For loop, for var equals 0, semicolon, I less than 10, semicolon, I increment. If you've had C++, this is looking a little similar to that, and even some JavaScript. For num equals 1 to 10, iterating from 1 to 10. For num equals 1 to 10, iterating 1 to 9, not 10, just 2 dots here. Playground. We're going to look at a playground now. Running a project without compiling, running as you type has advantages. Error symbols show as you type in your code and gives you what's called a quick look. A lot more Swift we'll learn out the semester is just an intro, little PowerPoint, little discussion. But we're going to do things as classes and structures, protocols, optional, non-optional parameters, properties and methods, getters and setters, property observers, and closures. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start Xcode, get started with the Swift, click Get Started with Playground, name it, last name, project playground screens. We'll look at the editor console outlet. We'll just look at some variables. Save it to the desktop and rename it to last name week1.zip and upload it into the in-class assignment. Due by next Monday, or it's actually 2 Mondays from now, we'll be creating an Apple ID, accepting a developer invitation, creating your RVC email, completing About Me, submitting your UDID if you have them for your iPhone or iPad, and submitting the Hello application. And we'll be doing that online, doesn't say in class. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the, I'm going to go back to the next slide here, which is a Swift Playground 1. Swift Playground Run gives, we're going to run this, and actually we're going to run it in Replit. And what's cool about Replit is it has a built-in Swift Playground or built-in Swift code base already. And Swift has a lot of different, or Replit has a lot of different code languages that you can compile in the cloud. So that's why I have you sign up for it, because we use it right on night one before Xcode is even running or installed. So you'll notice here in this main.swift, there is on this first line, these 2 forward slashes. That's going to be a comment, a lot like in C++, okay? And it says up here at the top, comment playground now, place where people can play and learn Swift. If I was to go into Swift itself, by the way, and click on this getting started with playground, and click on blank, and I'll put this on my desk document, CIS280. You'll notice, I'm just kind of putting it side by side here. Number 1, the import UI kit is in Swift Playground. Not really needed in the Replit playground. That's why it's commented out. And then var str equals hello playground. That's in there. So if I run this, by the way, let me exit out the simulator. And you'll notice to the left of the line there is a little play button that I just clicked on. You'll notice it says playground now over here. But I can change this to, I'm going to put an S on the end of it just to show you. Go to the next line. And to speed things up, you can hit that play button and notice it showed up here on the right. Okay. So as you're making changes in Playground, just remember when you make a change on the line within Xcode in the Swift Playground, you hit the play button, it'll populate easier. And you'll notice we've just declaring a variable here, str, and it's hello playground, so it's kicking out that here on the right side, which is kind of nice. So I'll run it on this side. So I've got, excuse me, my name is Chuck Conkle, age is 25. My name is Chuck Conkle, my age is 25. And so right here, I'll scroll on down to where it's actually doing stuff here within the code. I declared a variable called var str full name equals Chuck Conkle. Var str old as an int, made it 25. So I can change that just to show you I'm going to change it to my real age, which is 52. And this is a var example. Here is a constant example of let int age 52. But notice if I wanted to change int age, since it's a let, or since it's creating another variable, let a var int my age, 47, I'll change that to something that's wrong, like 51. I'll change it back to what's correct, which is 52. So here's where it starts putting in the first line here. Var str my age, my name is str full name, which is going to be bringing it from this right here, Chuck Conkle, and my age is str years old. You'll notice when I highlight this, it also highlights it everywhere in where it's declared. The difference between, by the way, Replit and Xcode running Swift is you notice it's not building on the fly, whereas Swift it will. So there's a change that was made. If I was just to take this code here that I just put in here, all this code, just to show you. And I'm going to copy it and bring it over into the Swift environment. And go to the very bottom here. It doesn't matter where you go, by the way, as long as you click. If you click the very bottom one, it's going to run all of them. So you'll notice here on the right now, and by the way, you can move around this line here. So it's different than Replit in the fact that you'll notice it's not only giving me my print statements, which that's what Replit gave me, was my print statements on 76, 77, and 81. It's also giving me everything above the print statement. Okay. So that's one of the big differences. And we'll play with this again here next in week 2, I believe we actually do the Xcode version of Playground. This week, and then the first couple weeks here, the week before class and next week, I just want you to get Xcode installed and get it running so you're not rushed to do it now before, it doesn't have to be running and on your machine between now and Monday of next week, if that makes sense. So that's why I use Replit instead. Okay, but I thought I'd show you Xcode just so you know it. All right, so what you're going to do for the exercise for exercise 1 is you'll go over all the notes, complete the exercise, and then share the Replit link below. You'll submit it actually here in the environment. In the text box entry, I'll just give a link, which I'll show you to create here. So I just want to show you something, though, while we're in here. I'm not reading all these notes. I'll have you read them. But I want to talk about, like, for instance, this age 52, in age 52. We talked about this being a constant. So let me see if I can rename or redeclare this as, like, say, 50 instead of 52. And go ahead and run it. Notice it stops at on line 53, actually 51, where it says main Swift 53.1 error, useful unresolved identifier int age. Did you mean int age? And I did mean int age. Let's run that again. There we go. Here's what I wanted, 53.1. Cannot assign to a value int age. It is a let constant. Int age is equal 50 is what I try to do. Note, change let to var to make it mutable, meaning changeable. So if I did that and changed let to var, run it, now we're in business. So lets me do that. Okay. And just so you know, in the Replit environment, you do not need the import UI kit. You'll notice it doesn't run with that. So just make sure when you're just for future reference, you will comment that out because it already has it built in. Okay. So I wanted to show you that about the int or the let statement. I'll bring that back in where it was. There we go. So it's back to the way it was. And on the Xcode environment, if I tried that, int age equals 50, enter. Didn't have to do anything, didn't have to play or anything. You'll notice cannot assign a value to int age. It is a let constant. If I click on this little red button, you'll notice it says, oh, hey, do you want to fix this? If I hit fix, boom, it changes it. Okay. Now it's changed it to int, and now everything's good. All right. Change it to var, I mean, from a let, and now everything runs fine. So I'll do that again to show you. Change that back to let. Let it sit there. I'll hit enter. Don't just hit the new line or whatever, and it boom, will not work. Okay. Okay, so let's get to the exercise. Once you read everything, all the comments here, talks about variables, declarations, single line comments, different types of variables. You'll get down to the bottom here, and the exercise part. You'll declare a string variable for your favorite food name, and you're going to name it fave food. You're going to name it a variable fave color, a variable, and you'll declare integer variable for your fave number, named fave number, not fave color. Should be fave number. Combine the three variables using the print format, and this will let you within a string concatenate your code like I did here. I concatinated the str full name and str years old within one string using the concatenating of just putting a backslash and then parentheses the str full name, left and right parentheses. So to bring a variable within a string in Swift, you leave your string just like it is. You want your variable to place it wherever you want it to be, backslash, and within left and right parentheses, you're going to put your variable name. Okay, so you do the same thing in print format. You'll do your variable name. You're going to print it 3 times. First, my favorite food is whatever, my favorite color is whatever, my favorite number is whatever. And what I'd like you to do as a challenge is 3 separate lines, fine. Then if you want, you can actually add them all together. So instead of 3 separate lines with 3 print statements, if you want to do 1 print statement with 1 string with all these in it, that would be fine as well. Okay. Notice it says here to export the file, compress it, rename it, upload it to week 1. Well, since it's in Replit, all you've got to do is go up here and hit share. Click on this link right here. And as soon as you click on that link, it's going to give you a link, a separate link from what I've just created. Mine's called plain loose directory. And if I hit share on Replit Talk, I don't want that, I don't want that. I want this one right here. This one I can bring into any browser. And again, it's going to create a different one for each person whenever you go to share it. And one of the things you've got to do once you're signed in, and I'll sign in as myself to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm signed in right here. And here's my actual Replit account. You'll have your own Replit account, by the way. And if I was to go back over to this and paste it, that's the one that I actually, created. But when you guys create your account, you'll basically sign in as your username when you click on this Replit week 1. It won't let you change my name of my shared account, but it will let you change your name, okay, by hitting the share button. All right. Go back. There we go. So you click on the share button, and you'll click on the shared link, and you'll be able to share it. Make sense? All right, cool. And then you'll post that below here in the exercise 1. Assignment 1 is go over the playground here, which goes to my Replit account that I just showed you. And it builds upon the exercise that we just did. There it is. So this is building upon the exercise that we just did. It goes over again, more variables, tells you what to do. Tells you examples of, like, say, an implicit type, an explicit type, example of a constant variable. Or if you try to reassign, and you can go ahead and play with that as you're going down. Once you get to the exercise, this one is you're going to print or declare a string variable for your first name, last name, phone number, email, age. You'll combine these four variables in using the show print format. Remember, when you do it within a string, you have to do the backslash, left and right parentheses, and then your variable name within it. You'll print 5 lines that has in the, my first name is Chuck, last name is Conkle, phone number is whatever you put there, your email is whatever it is, and your age is. All right, and then you'll click the share above, boom, like I showed you earlier, and you will share that and post it in the week 1 assignment.